Up next is our exciting keynote, The Power of Differentiation, How Great Design Shapes Exceptional Brands, presented by Rob Williams. Rob is an award-winning designer with over 20 years of experience in industrial and brand design. He has led design and brand initiatives for companies like Rivian, Lightship RV, and Nike, working on diverse products ranging from electric vehicles to footwear. Rob is currently head of creative at Lightship RV, where he leads brand and design for the launch of the company's first product, the AE1 Aero Electric Travel Trailer. Previously, as chief creative officer at Rivian, he guided the design and branding of the R1T and R1S, playing a key role in the company's $100 billion IPO. Rob also founded Wilco, a global design consultancy focused on helping startups and established brands like The North Face create innovative products and strategic brand identities. Before Rivian, he significantly contributed to Nike's running footwear division, driving a revenue increase from $1 billion to nearly $5 billion in 6 years. Please help me welcome Rob to the PubTalk stage.
Thanks, Shannon. They said she was an amazing MC, and they were not lying. What's up, everybody? Hey, I'm Rob Williams. I think the intro did a pretty good job. Bend, I don't know if I'm a Bend local. I've only been here for 6 years. I lived in Portland. We were there for 9 years, and we visited this place, fell in love with it. So been here 6 years, and really think that Bend has an amazing local community. I'm so excited to talk to you guys all tonight. I realize that we've got CPAs, we've got lawyers, we've got CPAs that know curling champions and all kinds of crazy stuff. So this is a different crowd. They let a designer in here tonight, but I promise it's going to circle back around to business. So what we're going to talk about, like I said, is the power of differentiation. And the way that I want to talk about this is every business can be affected through design. So just a real quick question, how many people in here have actually worked with a design agency or any type of, okay, all right, cool, oh, all right, very surprising, love it. So you guys are dialed in then, I don't need to, I'm done here. So what we're gonna talk about is how great design shapes exceptional brands. And I'm gonna take you through a little bit of a journey and storytelling about how brand can grow business. I think first off, from an intro standpoint, these are, of course, the brands that I've worked with. Lightship's where I'm currently at. Rivian, we'll talk a little bit about. Nike as well. I was at Jeep in Detroit. That was my first professional job. And then the North Face is up there because through my consultancy, I work with a lot of different brands. So busy guy. I love a lot of different projects and doing different things. And then I'm just going to jump right into it because honestly, I prepared way too many slides and I don't want to bore you guys. So I'm going to move really quick tonight through this, but I think you'll learn a little bit. I started out at the Chrysler Corporation and I studied to be a transportation designer. So that means you design the exterior or the interior of an automobile, anything that you can touch. So I'm not an engineering degree. And these are the two first products that I worked on. Both of them were billion-dollar programs for Chrysler. I was a 26-year-old guy at the time, and there was a lot of pressure. That was my first corporate job, and I was very fortunate to be able to work on these two products. They're not, from a design perspective, maybe the most beautiful cars, but they look good, and they were meant to serve a purpose for consumers. My first lesson at Chrysler was you design something, and then you take it down to Dallas, Texas, where people buy trucks and SUVs like this, and you have about 4,000 people come in on a Tuesday. You pay them $25. They get some refreshments, and then they basically list out all the things that they love or don't love about your design. And so that was a really interesting experience for me, getting feedback from all of these thousands of people that marketing would give back to us and say, hey, really what people want is more chrome on the front end of a truck. So that was the big insight. But it was a great learning experience. It was Detroit. It was like battle within in the company for resources and engineering, fighting with engineering on 3mm gaps, but learned a lot from this experience. When I was a kid, when I was in 7th grade, I spent math and reading class basically drawing cars and shoes. I don't think I ever did an equation right, but I had plenty of cool designs in my notebook. So when I decided to leave Chrysler, I went to Nike. and really got an education in brand. But I was a designer on the footwear team in running, in the running category. And so these are some of the projects that I worked on. Each one of these represents anywhere from $400 to $700 million of revenue for the company. And you're designing this as a designer. So you're taking inputs from the business, from all sorts of places. There's lots of noise. And so I learned under pressure at Chrysler how to handle that. And then at Nike, I also had that pressure, but what the difference was between the two companies is one really valued design and one really valued selling as many vehicles as possible. And so the experience at Chrysler was really valuable for me to learn how to work under that pressure. It led me to Nike. And then at Nike, like I said, working in running, you get access to all the best innovation. You get access to all the best brand. And these are shoes that would land on Super Bowl commercials. The bottom right one did. And then they land in advertisements in Times Square. So really interesting to see how they would take a shoe that's going to be on sale in 6 months and pitch it to the world as the most innovative, amazing thing in the world. And what this did, though, was give me basically a free education in brand. In running, I sat next to some of the best people in the world in terms of how to pitch a company and tell stories around a product. When I was at Nike, I was consulting with RJ Scaringe from Rivian. Back before it was Rivian, it was 12 guys in a little warehouse in South Florida. His dad was a rocket scientist, and RJ wanted to start a car company. So a friend that worked with him that randomly moved down to Florida met RJ and then called me up, and he's like, "Hey, I'm working with this guy that wants to start a car company." So naturally, I'm like, "Well, I'm designing shoes all day. It'd be nice to get back into automotive a little bit." Now, they had $1 million in investment. And they had no idea what they were doing. They were like, "Hey, come join us." And I'm like, "Maybe not. I'll just contract with you guys for now." But 5 years later, in 2017, RJ called up and he's like, "Hey, I just raised $200 million. I just bought a factory in Illinois. I want to start a company that is all electric vehicles. And we're going to do a truck and an SUV. Are you interested?" And I in my mind, I was like, "Yes, I don't care what you pay me. I'm there." Of course, I used some leverage, and I was like, "Oh, I'll think about it." RJ is one of the smartest guys I've ever worked with. But basically, at Rivian, I basically oversaw the design of the R1T and R1S, as Shannon mentioned. That includes the exterior, the interior, so the colors, the material, the finish, the design of the components, and then the screen in the middle, the UI, UX. And then also the way that the brand came to life. So it was an absolute dream job. And I think the experience at Chrysler first, experience at Nike after, and putting together roughly 12, 13 years of experience, and knowing the outdoor world and loving adventure and being in the outdoors, it's why we moved to Bend. I felt like I knew this was going to be something special. It was absolutely a dream job, but at a certain point, I'm like, "Hey, the culture's not right for me. I'm actually going to jump out," but got them ready for launch, and then decided I can move anywhere in the world. Where do I want to go? Chose this place, Bend, Oregon. And so been here for the last 6 years, like I mentioned, started a design consultancy, and along the way, met the co-founders of Lightship RV. And I'm a generalist in terms of design, between product design and brand design. I kind of do it all. I design socks at Nike, cars. Like, I love designing things. And I always looked at trailers and I'm like, why do they have to look so bad? It's like if you took Pamela Anderson's arm tattoo and put it on the side of every single RV, that's what it always looked like to me. So, but Lightship, what we're doing is we're basically creating a trailer that has batteries on board. If you own a Rivian or an electric vehicle, you can tow anything you want, you just can't tow it for very long. So this basically delivers range back to the vehicle and allows you to go on your trip faster. This is when it's lowered in what we call road mode, and then this is it when it's in camp mode. And so it's a completely new experience in terms of RVing, and we think that it matches with the type of consumer that might be own a Rivian or a Tesla. And then this is the interior. Again, if you've been in an RV, it's kind of like you're in a submarine, and we wanted to change that. So that's kind of a snapshot of my experience. This is CES a couple weeks ago in Las Vegas. We launched our production vehicle, and this is kind of how we showed up from the brand standpoint. So again, just making sure that brand and product always speaks together and knows each other really well creates value for a business, and I'm super lucky to be able to do this type of work. So really quickly, what is design? I'm going to take you through kind of the process of how we created the Lightship or the Rivian, and this is a process that I've learned, and we just kind of take it through any product that I'm designing. So what is design? Design is the intentional process of creating solutions that blend form, function, and emotion to basically solve users' problems or needs. That's what design is ultimately. People think that we just kind of like are good at colors or like draw this and yeah, that's pretty. It's actually very much more intentional than that, and it's a process that we follow. And then what does design do? Design really shapes experiences, it drives innovation, and it differentiates brands by translating ideas. RJ was like, hey, I want to start an adventure company, into tangible, meaningful outcomes that resonate with people. So that's what design is, that's what it does. And then this is kind of the process that we go through. So we always start with the end user. You know, as a designer, you always have to check, and this is something that as business people, you have to know your consumer, because if you don't know that, you don't really have a business. But you got a baby on the left, old couple on the right, and then you've got everybody in between. So as you're designing for people, if you're going to design a product for a baby, it's going to be very different than a product that you would design for the elderly. And product goes across all these spans of users. So we go deep on the consumer, understand what their problems are, and then from that, we start to develop a point of view by taking that user feedback, listening to what the business needs are, and then also looking at the marketplace, seeing where the holes are, seeing what are the opportunities. And from that, you take all the white noise in your head from all the feedback, and you got to find a point of view. And that little red dot is where the company's going. And it's not easy to get there because you have to filter all of this information. So what you see here is how we started at Lightship. Ben, our co-founder, had an idea. He was like, hey, people need to go longer on their journeys. If they have an electric vehicle, I want to create a trailer that does that. So this is where we started. We're like, okay, this is all the different types of design that it's going to pull from. It's got wheels. It's going to go on the road. We need it to be really aerodynamic, so it's got an element of automotive, architectural. And so we incorporated all of these different disciplines of design into the Lightship. The next thing we did was we wanted to create a different experience, all the windows around. So you see the lounge, or you see the left image, that's the lounge that's in the interior. So if you go check out the Lightship, you'll see that. But this is the way that we communicate to leadership and our other business partners about this is the direction we want to go before we even start the design. And then we knew it would need compact functionality. We really wanted to have a modern aesthetic. Airstream already has a Pottery Barn edition, so we knew we weren't going that direction. And then adaptable storage. So this is kind of how we get the team aligned to our point of view. Once we agree on that, as designers, we start to visualize the ideas and solutions that are kind of percolating in the atmosphere around us. And we get into sketches. So this is a 2-inch sketch on a book, and this basically turned into the Lightship. This was kind of the first sketch. And then you can see this really dirty napkin sketch here. Looks like a guy or girl reading a book up in there in the interior and kind of experiencing the outdoors, and that's basically what it turned into. So design is really powerful in being able to, in the early stages of a company, understand and interpret what ideas can turn into. And then we turn it into 3D. We start to look at volumetrics, how people move in the space, what does the space look like, and how do you break down the zones. And then on the brand side, what we did was we started to look at typography, colors, photography. All of these things seem maybe insignificant if you're just in the design or in the business space, but what this relates to is how you're basically connecting with your consumers. So we have to start to show this to our team so that we make sure that we're aligned. And then from there, we see into the future. So I'm going to transition a little bit. Once you have the product kind of solidified and everybody's kind of okay with the direction you're heading, then you have to start to think about, okay, how's the brand going to talk about this? And so an example here is the Apple. Computer on the left, 40 years old, computer on the right, 20 years old. But they were both iconic in terms of incorporating design in a new way, that grew the business. So on the left, you've got the big hello sign. That was the first time that UI was actually made for a human and not just a coder. And then on the right, you've got a computer that was like, okay, we've got, I think at this point, this computer came out in the early 2000s, and in 97, this is when Apple changed to think different. So their brand was already talking about thinking different, and then what they did was they designed a product that looked unlike anything else. Computer on the right, if you remember back, we're all old enough in this room to remember these days, every product started to look like Apple computers. So it was really influential. So they saw into the future, they took design and they said, we're going to differentiate. It doesn't have to be a beige box. And then the next thing we do is we turn products into experiences. So we go from this idea in the ether to some sketches, and then we turn it into eventually a product. And so I love this image because I remember the days back when RJ and I were talking about what this brand could be or what the vehicle could look like. And then you see it here, and this is a customer driving it down a 10,000-foot road in the middle of Colorado. It's an electric vehicle. No one even knew that electric vehicles could do that. So, the power of ideas and differentiating your design and your brand is really powerful. So love seeing these things actually out in the wild being used. Next thing we do is we communicate values. So this is a slide that I actually used at Rivian before we had anything sketched out. We were hiring the team. There was about 4 designers there when I got there, and we grew the team to about 45 people. But I gave this kind of speech to the board of directors, and I'm like, hey, the idea here is that you've got Apple, Nike, and Porsche. And if each one of you in the room are looking at those logos and you think about how do I feel about that brand just by looking at the logo is actually not the important thing about a brand. It's how each one of you is feeling right now, because some of you may look at the Porsche logo, love it, and some of you may be like, that's not for me. And you might even be thinking about the person that buys these products and associating yourself with, yeah, that's me, or that's not me. So brand is actually much more powerful than just the logo that you have. You're connecting with people. And then the Rivian logo on the right, words out. We'll see if they're successful in 40 years and still around like Nike and Apple, but they're on the right path, and eventually I think they will get there. So this is, again, just being able to put those ideas out for your own business, like where do we want to go, what do we want to do, is incredibly powerful. And then we create emotional connection. So, and I know this is like, for business owners, this is fuzzy stuff. It's like emotional connection, what are we talking about? But the importance here, and this is actually the most important thing, the emotional connection that you have, through the brand, you want people to love you, love what you do, and connect with your values. I love these 2 brand images. Nike does it better than anybody. And this idea of just do it has just stuck around, and it's the best tagline ever. And it's amazing that it just came from a couple hours away from here, right? Like in Oregon, we have so many amazing businesses that have come from here. Even Wyden and Kenny that did just do it is in Portland. So if you're a young kid, you want to be like KD. That's aspirational. On the left, if you're an older person and you want to own a Porsche, you've put your time in and you've got the money, you want to go fast. And so they're connecting emotionally with customers here. I'm going to go into why that's important. But first, just wanted to ask, think about what brands you love. You can probably think of 1 or 2 brands right now in your head that you're like, man, I love that brand. The thing to know about that is that a whole team of people actually made you love that brand. They knew what your values are. They're communicating those values out to you. And so just think about, why do I love that brand? And then relate it to your business, and how do you make people love your business? And then, so just to wrap it up, what does design do? We start with the end user. We develop a point of view. We visualize ideas. We see into the future. We turn ideas into experiences. We communicate our values, because that's what people want to know from your company or your brand. What do you stand for? And then lastly, we create an emotional connection. And when you do that, that's when things really start to happen. Next is kind of what we're talking about here, the power of differentiation. So why is it so important? This is where we'll go away from all the lovey-dovey emotional connection stuff a little bit. We're going to come back to it, I promise you. But business equals bottom line. So I've never worked with a co-founder or a founder or a business owner that's like, hey, next year I want to have a smaller bottom line. So when we talk about design and differentiation in your business, it actually drives value, and that's the importance. So differentiation helps brands connect in a crowded marketplace. You've got a lot of competition. Every company does. It's just the truth. Steve Jobs said it best. He was like, we're Apple. Apple has 10 seconds to connect with our consumer before they move on to the next thing. If your business or Lightship or Rivian, they have 1.5, 2 seconds. So how do you make an impact? And that's why differentiation is actually really important. If Apple only has 10 seconds, how long do you have? And then this idea of transition or transaction or connection. So imagine you are a parent, you've got a 3-year-old snotty-nosed toddler, you got him in the cart, and you're just trying to get out of the grocery store and get to dinner, right? So what brands do to attract your attention is Ajax over here on the left is a transactional relationship. They know you've got 2 seconds. And so look, 28 ounces, Ajax Ultra, grapefruit, liquid dish soap. At that moment in time, that's all the shelves looked like. There was nothing else on the shelf. And then along came a brand called Method, and they wanted to connect. They're like, hey, we're actually gonna do it differently. So they stripped it down, they made it really simple. And if you think about taking these products home, which one are you gonna leave out on your counter just for ease of use versus which one are you gonna hide? I know which one I would hide, and it's Ajax, good old 28 ounce, 828 milliliters over here. So, that is a transactional relationship because they know, hey, we just need somebody to buy this really quickly. So that's, and the Method came in and took a lot of market share. And then again, you've got big box stores like Walmart or Costco. Not talking bad about them. They've got great businesses. They make all kinds of money. But you also have IKEA, and these are both, warehouse businesses that have low-priced items. But the way they're connecting with their consumer is through their brand and telling stories while you're in the store. And so, just a very different relationship with the customer. And then, if you're in the digital space, same thing here. This is in the crypto space. So on the left, you've got Coinbase, one of the biggest wallets. They're actually the biggest wallet. And then in the right, you've got a newcomer called Exodus. And they just have beautiful UI. They're Apple guys that started a company, and they understand user interface a lot better than the team at Coinbase. So one feels like you're just going to a blank website. The other feels like something that someone's thought about, and you might end up trusting them more. So differentiation creates connection. So that's a big idea, is like creating connection. How do you connect with your consumer and make them trust you? When you do connect, then you start to create cults. And everybody here knows Patagonia. I'm sure half the people in this room are wearing it. But this, Yves Chenard started this because he was a rock climber, and he was like, hey, I want to go rock climbing. I need good clothes. What he didn't realize, as someone that loves the environment, is that he was getting into one of the dirtiest businesses in the world. And so he had this dilemma of, okay, I've got these values. I want to protect the environment. I love it. That's what I'm doing. How do we make our product better? And then how do we tell that story? And so I absolutely love Patagonia and they even have a creative team in-house. So their designers sit next to their brand designers. And so they're just constantly talking. And the brand's so succinct and tight because of that. And then that's why so many people here in Bend and everywhere else love Patagonia. So it's really, again, creating that connection and then creating those and showing those values and making sure that those people that wear your clothes are actually aligned to your values and showing that off, and they're proud of wearing Patagonia. And then once you get to cult status, it drives business value through loyalty. So, the next slide coming after Patagonia, we've got Tesla. So I did that intentionally because whatever you think about Musk, what he has done is he's completely flipped the automotive industry, an entrenched industry, on its head by creating a product that he believed in. And I think the value that comes from the people that love Teslas, that's how they didn't spend marketing dollars. They just had people talking about their product to other people. So whatever business you might run, every time you have that good transaction, word of mouth is just as powerful as any other marketing technique. And then Yeti. Who needs a $400 cooler? Apparently a ton of people. So, I love this branding because you've got generations to break down. And then you've got generations to break in. It's brilliant marketing because it's like, yeah, we're expensive, but we're also the best in the industry, and it's going to last you forever. And then what that does is because they sold a $400 cooler, now they can sell you an $80 Hydro Flask, honestly, right? Hydro Flask did it first. But the marketing around it, it's that loyalty that keeps people coming back. And then just in the footwear industry really quickly, you guys know these brands, Hoka and On, I see them all over Bend. But Nike's an established player. You can't touch Nike. That was the thinking 5 to 6 years ago. What they did is they both came in with a really distinct point of view. And Hoka is loud, obnoxious, comfortable. It's all of those things. And people they love it. They can't get enough of it. And On was like, okay, we're Swiss. We see you, American company. We're going to do it super tastefully. And we're going to look like our stores are a science lab. And so, two different takes on how to take market share away from an entrenched leader through the point of view of design and brand. And you can see here that when I talk about brand, it's the way that the store comes to life. It's everything that you touch and feel and how they present themselves. And then they're doing it in the service of selling that product. All right, so I'm moving pretty quick here. We're almost done, so thank you for your patience. So why is differentiation important? I think this is a really good slide. So if business equals a bottom line, right? You all are business owners. The bottom line is the most important thing. But what you have to do is be able to create a connection. And so differentiation creates that connection because now you can start to identify yourself with that brand, why they're different, what their values are. And then connection creates cults. And what cults create are loyal fans, which drive value, and then value equals big business, and then you just start this cycle over and over because you're going to create another product or you're going to come up with another service. So again, this idea of being able to be different than your competition is so important. And then just a couple more slides. So design transforms business. I don't care if it's B2C or B2B. I didn't talk a lot about B2B here, but if you think about Salesforce, they knew what their users needed. They put it all into one nice package, and they blew up because of that. You can be big or small. You can be physical or digital. You can be a lawyer or a landscaper. And then you can be a product or a service or a profit or nonprofit company. Design and brand and thinking about how you're connecting with your consumer can help you. I know I've talked a lot about big brands because they're easy to know, but talking to local business owners, I think it's really important. My son's right here in the second row. He's a young local business owner. This is Brett. And his buddy Adam, they run Live Junkless. They're a junk removal business. He's 23. He's got 8 guys and 4 trucks. So he's living this, and he's doing this through his customer service. He has the best customer service, and he's finding other ways to differentiate himself. So I want to, I don't want this just to be about Nike and Porsche and all these big brands. And then basically, design transform business by focusing on the end user. So always know your consumer. Promoting innovative solutions, driving consistency. That's one thing that you have to do is be consistent. And then building trust and loyalty, and then adding value to the bottom line. So at the base of it, design is differentiation. And then just in closing, is design a part of your strategy? So that's what I've got. I don't know how long I went. I hope it was.
Oh, I think you did great. How about a round of applause for our friend Rob? Your kid is the junkless guy? Are you kidding me? You guys have such an incredible reputation. It's so cool. And if you all have a garage full of junk, those are your guys. But you do something really special, and people talk about you in the community. So that's so cool. I feel like I just met somebody famous. That was awesome. This was so helpful and so interesting, and I want to talk a little bit more about the RV trailers because, man, I see those things around, and I'm like, no chance. I'm not getting in one of those old nasty things. They're off-gassing. They're just absolutely terrible. So they are. Yuck. So tell me a little bit more about, where can we go see one? Yep. Where are you at in the process with this?
Yeah, so lightshiprv.com, go check us out. Do it on desktop. The phone is good, but it's really special on the desktop. And then we're going to start basically a series of trips around the West Coast mainly, a little bit into Texas. But we just launched our production unit. It's pretty amazing. Nothing's been made like this before. So it's kind of like an Airstream Plus. And yeah, we're going to start letting consumers in. We're selling them now. And we've been working for about the last 3 years. We're based in San Francisco and in Denver. And we've got some of the best climate tech investors behind us. And now it's time to make this thing real, the business real. So
yeah, I agree. I can't wait to start seeing them around. They're so cool. Okay, questions for Rob from the audience. Raise your hand. Yes, in the back. Okay, this is a great question. So this is wants clarification on the battery on the trailer. Does it just kind of handle itself, or does it actually improve the performance of the vehicle?
Yeah, so it's basically a car. It's got a drive motor on it. It's got 2 batteries. It's 80 kilowatts, so it's a huge battery. And then the drive unit, what it does is it talks to, we've got a patented hitch sensor. We've got some amazing Tesla engineers. But basically it takes the hitch feedback from the vehicle, and the sensors kind of tell the drive motor to slow down or to speed up, and so it matches the speed of the truck, and you can actually feel it when you're driving. So if you're going downhill, it'll kind of slow you down a little bit, and then when you're going uphill, it helps push the vehicle up.
Well, that's so cool. And so you can only drive it with an electric vehicle, is that right?
No, that's not right, but I'm glad you brought that up. We're focused on electric vehicles initially because we think the consumers are, they're early mindset consumers, but really if you have a gas or a diesel truck, it basically, whatever your highway mileage is without towing, it matches that due to the drive unit, but also the aerodynamics of it.
That is incredible.
So,
That's
yeah.
incredible. Probably couldn't tow one behind my wagon, though, huh? You need a big diesel
Not the
truck.
wagon,
Okay,
this one's
well,
a little heavier. Yeah.
I'll keep dreaming. Okay, any other questions for Rob? Yes. Oh, this is a great question. Okay, for a business that's hiring a designer, how do you evaluate that designer's merit, how they could contribute to your team?
Yeah, I think the portfolio is the most important thing, years of experience, and the work has to kind of speak for itself, but more importantly than the work is the attitude. So it's just like any other hire. If you want to hire a designer on, they have to be able to work hard, support the business, and you really want to look for someone that's going to kind of be by your side and take you where you need to go. So, there's all kinds of different designers. I don't know what kind of designer you're trying to hire, but that portfolio is super important, but attitude's the most.
Great answer. I love that. Okay, any other questions for Rob? Raise your hand for me. Are you a designer? Yeah, you. Oh, okay. You're just like, maybe one day. Yeah. No.
He's like,
maybe
no,
a
I just
friend.
want the
He's
designer
like,
to do what I need him to do.
Okay, any other questions for Rob? Really? Okay, go. Yes, Talina. Okay. So she's asking about kind of like things that support the battery. Are there solar panels? Like, does it just have to be plugged in? How do you get it recharged?
Yeah, I don't know how technical you all are, but it's got 2 kilowatt hours of solar on top. So basically, you could take this thing. We've actually heard from a lot of consumers that they want to use this as a tiny home. They're not going to plug it in, and they're like, "How long will this go for?" And right now, with the solar capacity, it's like 10 times what a traditional home setup is. You can stay off grid for a week, if not more, if the solar conditions are right. So just off the battery and the solar alone, we're calling it a week, but we know that that's a little bit conservative.
And then it'll probably improve with time, right? It sounds like you guys are like really aiming high on this thing. So.
Yep. It's, everything about it is just completely unlike anything else. I mean, like literally our engineering team is all from, I know I talked a lot about design, but to create a product, the engineering team has to be excellent. So it's all Rivian, Tesla guys, and yeah.
And so, like, when you guys are in the room and you're drawing the things and are you just like nerding out so hard? You're just like, this is so exciting for someone who does what you do. What has that been like?
Yeah, no, I was nervous coming here because I totally nerd out on this stuff, and it's like business owners. But no, it's been a fun experience. There's a lot of really talented people, like I said, great investors, and it's been a fun journey creating the product. So.
Yeah, well, this is so cool. Okay, final questions. Anybody? All right, well, okay, there is somebody in the back. Is that you, William? Oh, amazing. Okay, what do you got for us?
What advice can you give to a small business who is looking to differentiate themselves from a brand perspective?
I love this question.
Love it.
So what advice could you give to a small business that's looking to differentiate themselves among others that they're competing against?
Yeah, no, that's kind of why I'm here tonight. So I think the first thing to do is look at like how you're reaching out to the customers. You've got to get your brand in order. You got to make sure that it looks professional. What you're trying to do really through design is just create trust. So you came up here, you're a good-looking guy, you're better than Joe Dirt, and you obviously know how to run a good business. So through the power of design and through the power of your brand, what you're really trying to do is just create that trust that you're the best provider of that service. So website, the way that you send your email strategy, all of those things are what you can do to kind of differentiate yourself. But there's a whole visual element to that. So I didn't get into the specifics tonight, but talk to me afterwards and we can talk.
Yeah, and so do you think there's value for a company like Williams to maybe get a design consultant to come in and kind of take a look at everything and maybe make some improvements, tweak some things?
It's the reason I'm here tonight. Every business can use design to create more value for themselves and a better bottom line. Like I said, it just makes you look more professional. It's easier to trust you. There's a fairly low bar in local businesses sometimes. And so, I work with big brands, but I do have a passion for smaller companies that are doing a great service, are great people. And so, yeah, I think every business should be looking at using a design agency of some sort. Don't think about it as, think about it as you're going to get a return on investment. I know it might not, traditionally show up on your sheets, but it's worth the investment, and you'll see that money back.
Right, and I'd imagine if you're working with the right designer, like you could probably phase it out. Like the most important thing is like this and this. Let's do that first. Let's see where we, like.
Absolutely. I mean, there's great design agencies here in town. I've worked with some of them before, and they'll work with your budget. So don't be nervous to approach a design agency. They're here for you guys. Like it's just like you with your business. You're not going to turn away business. They'll figure out how to work with you at the moment that you're in the company.
Yeah, I love that you said every type of business can benefit from this. I think that's so true, especially now when creating a brand is so important, almost equally important to the service that you actually offer. So that was really interesting. Well, I hope you'll come back and give us an update because I want to hear more about these trailers, and maybe one day you'll be able to pull one up and we can all get inside of it. I mean, not at the same time; they're not huge, but
no, actually,
I'd love
we could
to
probably
see.
all fit.
We could all fit.
It'll be fine. And we'll have beers.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Rob. This was
Okay.
really great. You're
Thank
awesome.
you, everybody.